Well, good morning from Rochester, Minnesota and the Mayo Clinic here. Particularly want to give a greeting to the Gustafson family, to Amanda, and to Anna Karin. Thank you so much for inviting me to make a few comments to help kick off the Paradifference Foundation, and what a great idea this foundation is. My name is Jim Maher. I'm 53 years old, and I'm a professor of biochemistry and molecular biology at Mayo Clinic in Rochester. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about our research program, but also a little bit about my own story, because the reason I'm involved in this project and participating with the Gustafson family is because not only am I a research scientist and a molecular biologist, but I'm also a paraganglioma patient myself. And like Amanda, I share interest in what it's like to try to conquer this disease by first understanding it in detail. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my story, and then how we at Mayo Clinic are working to make a difference and to end patient suffering because of this rare but important tumor called paraganglioma. In 1975, when I was just 15 years old, I was in high school, and I felt a mass in my abdomen. I could see it actually throbbing, even though it was deep within my abdomen, and mentioned it to my physician. And although I didn't have any other symptoms, that was the basis for a cancer surgery that occurred at the University of Wisconsin. And after that surgery, I experienced what it's like to be a cancer patient, even as a young person. I had radiation therapy and I had chemotherapy, and it was a very difficult experience. But I recovered. And I think because of that cancer experience, I got interested in molecular biology, and I considered being a doctor and being a scientist. The cancer was called paraganglioma, and I didn't think much about it at the time. It was an interesting tumor that can grow anywhere within the abdomen and head and neck. And after I survived it, I sort of put it out of my mind and went on to get a PhD degree from the University of Wisconsin and do my training at the California Institute of Technology in biochemistry and molecular biology. And remarkably, 20 years after that surgery, I found myself as a young professor with the opportunity to move my research group to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And as part of that move, I was studying the nucleic acids, DNA, and RNA with my group. And as I came to Mayo Clinic, which is perhaps the best clinic and hospital in the world, I had a health physical as part of moving my group here, and in a shocking discovery realized that this tumor, paraganglioma, had recurred in my body without any symptoms and would require another surgery in the abdomen. But more ominous than that, my form of paraganglioma had spread also to my skeleton, and tumors were growing in various places within my body, my hips and my skull and so forth, and that would require radiation therapy. Radiation left some hair missing on my hair here, and I learned again the lesson of what it's like to be uncertain about your future. Paraganglioma had come back in my life, and it made me curious what it is about this unusual disease that can recur, and how might it be treated. One of the best paraganglioma physicians in the world is Dr. Bill Young, who happens to be here at Mayo Clinic, and he's my physician as well. And 18 years ago when I got here, Bill told me about this disorder, and I was immediately fascinated because of what he told me. And I want to explain it to you just for a moment so you can understand why my research group got involved in studying this tumor that it actually affects me. And to tell you about it, I want to show you, perhaps it's a little surprising, I'm going to use this car model to explain it. Many of us study cancer biology and study all the different kinds of tumors that can affect people. And we have many different kinds of cells in our body, and unfortunately, any one of those kinds of cells can grow out of control and become a cancerous tumor on rare circumstances. To understand what cancer is, I sometimes find it useful to think about a car. And almost all cancers are like a car that's out of control. A normal cell, perhaps this car under control, has good brakes, and it only drives quickly when the accelerator is properly pushed, and it's under control and safe. But cancers share in common that they're out of control, and the most common problems that cause cells to grow out of control would be that the accelerator pedal that drives the engine is pushed down all the time, whether the driver wants it or not, and so the car is racing along uncontrollably. That's one kind of cancer problem, the accelerator pushed down too much. The other kind of cancer problem is when the brake pedal doesn't work anymore. So regardless of what speed the car is going, it can't stop. And so the kinds of mistakes in cancer cells are usually the brakes or the accelerator. What amazed me when I was talking with Dr. Bill Young about my kind of tumor, paraganglioma, was that neither of those two problems seems to be the origin of this cancer. Instead, the cancer starts because of a problem in the engine. And I was amazed when I heard the particular broken recipe that's present in the blueprint of cancer patients like myself and Amanda, which is an enzyme called succinate dehydrogenase. It's a long word, but it's one of the machines in the engine of the cell. And when this machine is improperly coded or broken, the engine doesn't function properly. And I was aware of that machine, and I always assumed that if it was broken, the engine wouldn't run well and the car would stop running at all. But instead, quite remarkably, when this particular part of the engine is broken, these cells in the body grow out of control. Paraganglioma involves neuroendocrine cells, a particular kind of cell, racing out of control because of a problem in the engine. And instead of the car stopping, it goes too fast and out of control. And when I heard that, I was so fascinated. I said, we need to understand why a problem with the engine, that is how the cell uses sugar to make energy, how that problem could actually cause cancer and a cell to grow out of control. I was so amazed and mystified by that puzzle. I said our research group needs to work on that. And so for a number of years now here at Mayo Clinic, I've been partnering with Dr. Bill Young, who's a clinician, and I and my basic science research group have been asking, why does a broken engine cause a car to run out of control? And my team now, involving 2 technologists who are professionals in my group, as well as an MD, PhD student, and other younger students who are part of my laboratory at Mayo, along with collaborators in my department and at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, which is about an hour away from here, have a research program in partnership with the Gustafson Family Foundation, the Paradifference Foundation, and the National Institutes of Health to ask these questions. And what we're working on are trying to get models of this tumor. Since it's rare, it occurs not frequently enough that we have many different kinds of cells to study. We want to understand it better. So in our laboratory, we are trying to create mice that have the same genetic problems that I do and other paraganglioma patients do. These genes can be passed along in families, and so they could be passed along between mice, which are easier to study. We'd like to find cells from those animals that grow like paragangliomas so we can study how we might slow down the growth of those tumors, why they're growing out of control in the first place, and ultimately how to treat them. We're interested in receiving from patients like myself and others samples of their tumor while they're treated here at Mayo Clinic so that we can ultimately grow those tumors in the laboratory, hopefully, and understand them better. We'd like to have samples from those tumors to look at under the microscope. We also are interested in other rare models of these tumors, particularly using organisms, even tiny nematode worms called Cenorhabditis elegans, which are wonderful models in the laboratory. They don't get the cancer, but the gene changes that cause the cancer can be observed in these tiny worms, and those animals may be able to help us in new ways find drugs that would treat this disease better. So our dream is over the next few years to take this rare neuroendocrine cancer, a kind of cancer that can become lethal and can be very difficult for patients, and understand it first. What's going on? Why is the loss of this important machine, succinate dehydrogenase, driving the cancer? And when we understand that, being able to do something new and different for these patients. And our real dream is that maybe the things we understand about paraganglioma, which is out of control because of an engine problem, might be applicable to many other kinds of cancers as well. So on behalf of patients like myself and Amanda and others who are facing the challenge of paraganglioma, a rare but important tumor. I want to thank the Gustafson family and the Paradifference Foundation for their investment in making it possible for researchers like me to partner with physicians and to bring our trainees and apprentices, like the MD, PhD students in my laboratory, to work on this important problem and really, as the name of the foundation says, make a difference in paraganglioma research. Thank you so much for your interest and for your commitment to this important problem.